Japan doesn't just make better home products, it makes products so well thought out that using them once makes everything else feel unfinished. A whisk and bowl set that turns a simple spoonful of powder into a smooth, frothy drink in under a minute. A pillow filled with buckwheat holes that contours perfectly to your head and stays cool all night without flipping at once. And a toilet seat so advanced it makes every other bathroom in the world feel like something from a campsite. These aren't luxury items or complicated upgrades. They're simple, affordable things that slot straight into your daily routine and immediately make it better. Today, we're counting down 25 Japanese home ideas that instantly make life better. Watch until the end because number 25, the Japanese smart rice cooker, is already in over 90% of Japanese homes, and once you see what it actually does, you'll understand exactly why. Number 1, Japanese egg bite mold. Soft, custardy egg bites have become one of the most popular breakfast items in coffee shops worldwide. In Japan, you make them at home for a fraction of the price, and the silicone mold that makes it possible costs almost nothing. A Japanese egg bite mold is a silicone tray with individual round cavities that sits directly inside a rice cooker or steamer. You crack eggs into each cavity, add whatever fillings you want, and the steam cooks everything gently and evenly into perfectly set, soft egg bites in minutes. No oven required, no water bath balancing act, no checking, flipping, or babysitting. The silicone releases cleanly every time, the portions are consistent, and the whole tray washes in seconds. It works with cheese, vegetables, meat, or just plain egg. It's the kind of tool that costs very little, takes up almost no space, and immediately changes how you think about making breakfast. Number 2, Matcha whisk set. Making matcha properly without the right tools is genuinely frustrating. You end up with clumps floating on the surface, powder stuck to the sides of the cup, and a drink that tastes nothing like what you'd get in Japan. The Japanese matcha whisk set solves all of that. It consists of a bamboo whisk called a chasen, a small ceramic bowl called a chawan, and sometimes a small sifter. You sift the powder directly into the bowl, add a small amount of hot water, and whisk in a rapid zigzag motion until the surface becomes smooth and slightly frothy. The bamboo tines of the chasen are specifically designed to break up clumps and incorporate air in a way that no spoon, frother, or electric mixer replicates. The result is a smooth, vibrant, properly emulsified cup of matcha that tastes completely different from anything made with a spoon and a mug. It takes under 2 minutes, and the difference is immediate. Number 3, Shiatsu neck and back massager. Most people carry tension in their neck and shoulders without ever fully releasing it. You stretch, you roll it out, and within a few hours it's back. Japan addressed this with a home appliance that's become a staple in Japanese households for decades. The Shiatsu neck and back massager uses rotating nodes that replicate the deep circular pressure of a professional Shiatsu massage. You drape it over your neck, across your lower back, or press it against your shoulders, and the nodes rotate in alternating directions, working through muscle tension the same way a trained therapist's thumbs would. Most Japanese models include a heat function that warms the nodes as they work, which loosens muscle tissue significantly faster than pressure alone. It plugs into the wall, requires no setup, and can be used while sitting on the sofa watching television. Professional shiatsu massage in Japan costs money every single time. This does the same job from your own couch every day for years. If you're enjoying this so far, go ahead and tap like. It tells YouTube you want more of Japan's clever everyday innovations. And if you love discovering things you didn't even know existed, hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this list. Trust me, the next ones are even better. Number 4, dish drying mat. Most kitchen counters have a drying rack sitting beside the sink permanently. It takes up space whether it's full or empty, the tray underneath stays damp, and the whole thing needs cleaning almost as often as the dishes themselves. Japan replaced it with a dish drying mat, and once you've used one, the rack feels unnecessarily bulky. A Japanese dish drying mat is a thin, highly absorbent microfiber or diatomite mat that sits flat on the counter. Dishes go directly onto it after washing. The mat absorbs the dripping water instantly, the surface dries fast, and when you're done, the mat either rolls up and stores in a drawer or stands upright against the splashback, taking up almost no space. Diatomite versions made from fossilized algae are particularly popular in Japan because they absorb water and dry out so rapidly they never develop the musty smell that fabric mats eventually get. Clean counter, clean mat, no rack cluttering the space. Number 5. Shower pressure boost head. Water pressure in apartments is a problem almost everywhere in the world. You turn the shower on, you get a thin, uneven stream that takes twice as long to rinse anything properly, and there's nothing you can do about it short of calling a plumber. Japan solved it with a replacement shower head that boosts pressure without requiring any plumbing work at all. Japanese pressure boost shower heads use a narrow internal nozzle design that concentrates the existing water flow into a tighter, faster stream. effectively multiplying the felt pressure without increasing water consumption. Many models also incorporate a filter that removes chlorine and minerals from the water, which Japanese users report makes a noticeable difference to skin and hair over time. Installation takes about 30 seconds. You unscrew the existing head, screw the new one on, and the difference is immediate. It's one of those upgrades that costs very little, requires no professional help, and makes one of the most used parts of your home noticeably better every single day. Number 6. Folding drying rack. A standard drying rack is one of those objects that never quite fits anywhere. It's too wide for the balcony, too tall for the bathroom, and when it's not in use, it just leans against a wall, taking up space it doesn't deserve. Japan's folding drying rack is designed around the specific problem of storage. The frame collapses completely flat, the arms fold inward, and the whole thing slides behind a door, under a bed, or into a narrow cupboard gap in seconds. When you open it out, it provides multiple tiers of hanging space, sidearms for shirts and trousers on hangers, and a wide enough footprint to handle a full load of laundry at once. Japanese versions are typically made from lightweight aluminum with locking joints that hold their position firmly without wobbling. They dry a full wash, then disappear entirely. It's the same function as a standard rack with none of the permanent presence. Number 7. Magnetic fridge shelf. The side of a fridge is one of the most ignored surfaces in any kitchen. It's vertical, it's always accessible, and in most homes, it has absolutely nothing on it except maybe a calendar held up by a novelty magnet. Japan turned it into storage. Magnetic fridge shelves are metal or plastic shelves with a strong magnetic backing that attach directly to the side of any steel fridge without drilling, adhesive, or any permanent modification. They hold spices, oils, condiments, small utensils, cling film rolls, anything that normally gets pushed to the back of a crowded cupboard. Because the fridge surface is vertical and always facing into the kitchen, everything stored on it stays visible and immediately reachable without opening a single door or pulling anything out. You can reposition them at any height, add more as needed, and remove them completely without leaving any mark. It turns a surface every kitchen already has into a functional storage wall that requires nothing but a magnet to install. Number 8. Sobakawa buckwheat pillow. Most pillows have the same problem. They start firm, compress within an hour, and by morning your neck is in a position it was never meant to hold. You flip them for the cool side, which helps for about 4 minutes, and then you're back to the same flat, warm surface. A Sobakawa buckwheat pillow doesn't do any of that. It's filled with buckwheat hulls, the outer casing of the buckwheat grain, which are small, firm, and irregular in shape. They shift and settle around your head and neck as you move, providing consistent support that a foam or feather pillow simply can't maintain. Because the hulls don't trap heat the way foam does, the pillow stays cool naturally throughout the night, without any gel inserts or special covers. Buckwheat pillows have been used in Japanese homes for centuries. The modern versions are adjustable too. You can remove or add hulls to change the firmness until it's exactly right for how you sleep. Number 9. Japanese noodle measuring tool. Cooking pasta or noodles for one person always ends in the same place. You either cook too much and waste half of it, or you cook too little and end up back at the stove while you're already hungry. Japan made a tool specifically for this problem. A Japanese noodle measuring tool is a flat disc or paddle with multiple holes of different sizes, each one calibrated to the exact bundle of dry noodles that produces a single serving, a standard serving, or a large serving when the noodles are pushed through. You hold it over your bag of spaghetti or ramen noodles, push a bundle through the relevant hole until it fits snugly, and that's your portion. No scales, no guessing, no comparing the bundle in your hand to the vague description on the packet. It costs almost nothing, hangs on a hook in the kitchen, and completely eliminates one of the most consistently annoying small problems in everyday cooking. Number 10. Suribachi grinding bowl. A standard Western mortar and pestle has a smooth interior. You press ingredients against it and grind in circles, which works eventually, but it takes significantly longer than it needs to and leaves behind more residue than you'd like. A Suribachi works differently. It's a Japanese ceramic grinding bowl with a ridged interior, rows of tiny grooves etched across the entire inner surface. When you press sesame seeds, spices, or paste ingredients against those ridges with the wooden pestle, they catch and break apart almost immediately, rather than sliding around a smooth surface. The result is a finer, more consistent grind achieved in a fraction of the time. Toasted sesame seeds become a smooth paste in under a minute. Spice blends grind evenly without leaving whole pieces mixed in with the powder. It's a tool that has existed in Japanese kitchens for over 1,000 years because it simply works better than the alternative. The ridged interior is the entire difference, and it's immediately obvious the first time you use one. Number 11. Hanging pot rack. Kitchen cupboards are one of the most inefficient storage systems in any home. Pots and pans stack inside each other. The one you need is always at the bottom, and getting it out means dismantling the entire stack and then rebuilding it again after. Japan's solution is to take the pots off the shelf entirely. A hanging pot rack mounts to the ceiling or wall above the stove and holds pots, pans, and lids on individual hooks. Everything hangs openly, nothing stacks, and every single piece is visible and reachable with one hand in 1 second. The cupboard space that the pots used to occupy becomes available for everything else. The kitchen feels larger because the most bulky items in it are now stored vertically in space that wasn't being used for anything. Japanese kitchens are often compact, which is exactly why this solution became standard. When counter space and cupboard space are limited, the answer is to look up and use the space that's already there. Number 12. Japanese weighted blanket. Falling asleep is one thing. Staying asleep, feeling genuinely settled rather than restless, is something most people struggle with, far more than they realize. Japan brought weighted blankets into mainstream home use as a sleep and relaxation tool long before the rest of the world caught on. A weighted blanket is filled with small glass or plastic beads evenly distributed across the entire surface, creating a consistent, gentle pressure across the body. This pressure activates the same calming response as being held, reducing cortisol levels and increasing serotonin, which is why it makes falling and staying asleep noticeably easier. Japanese versions are engineered with specific attention to weight distribution, ensuring the beads don't shift to one side overnight, and breathable outer materials that prevent the blanket from becoming uncomfortably warm. The recommended weight is roughly 10% of your body weight. You feel it immediately when you lie down. The sensation is difficult to describe accurately, but most people who try one find it extremely hard to go back to a regular blanket. Number 13. Furoshiki wrapping cloth. Every kitchen has a drawer with plastic bags in it. Most people keep them because they feel useful. Use about a third of them and throw the rest away eventually. Japan replaced the whole system with a single square of cloth. A furoshiki is a traditional Japanese wrapping cloth used to carry, store, wrap, and transport almost anything. A few specific folds turn it into a bag strong enough to carry a watermelon. Other folds create a wine carrier, a gift box wrap, a lunch bag, or a reusable shopping tote. It's a single piece of fabric with no handles, no zips, and no structure of its own that becomes whatever shape the contents require. In Japanese homes, furoshiki are used daily. They wrap bento boxes, carry groceries, package gifts, and store items on shelves. When they are not in use, they fold flat into nothing. One cloth replaces dozens of single-use bags, multiple gift wrap rolls, and several tote bags simultaneously. The only thing you have to learn is 3 or 4 folds. Number 14. Fermentation crock. Fermented foods are central to the Japanese diet in a way they simply aren't in most Western kitchens. Miso, pickled vegetables, and fermented condiments appear at almost every Japanese meal, and many households make them at home using one specific tool. A Japanese fermentation crock is a heavy ceramic vessel with a water-sealed lid. The water seal allows gases produced during fermentation to escape without letting outside air in, creating the precise anaerobic environment that fermentation requires. You pack vegetables with salt, press them below the brine, seal the lid, and leave it. The crock does the rest. Cabbage becomes tangy pickled tsukemono in days. Longer ferments produce deeper, more complex flavors that no store-bought product replicates. Beyond taste, fermented foods produced this way are rich in live cultures that support gut health directly. Japan has understood this connection for centuries. The crock itself lasts a lifetime. Once you have one and understand the basic process, homemade fermented food becomes one of the easiest things you make. Number 15. Silicone food storage bags. Plastic Ziploc bags are one of those single-use items that most kitchens go through constantly without ever really thinking about the accumulation. You use one, you throw it away, you pull another one out of the box. Japan standardized the reusable silicone version as a mainstream kitchen product long before it became a trend elsewhere. Japanese silicone food storage bags seal airtight, go directly into the freezer, the microwave, and boiling water without degrading, and wash clean in seconds. They store leftovers, marinate meat, freeze portions, and pack lunch, doing everything a plastic bag does with none of the disposal. The silicone is thick enough to be handled repeatedly without tearing, and flexible enough to compress flat for storage when empty. One set of 4 or 5 bags replaces hundreds of single-use plastic bags over their lifespan. The upfront cost pays back quickly, the kitchen produces less waste, and the bags themselves outlast almost everything else in the drawer they live in. Number 16. Tetsubin cast iron kettle. Boiling water is something most people do multiple times a day without giving it any thought. Japan turned it into something noticeably better with a tool that's been in Japanese homes for over 400 years. A Tetsubin is a Japanese cast iron kettle used to heat water for tea. The thick cast iron walls absorb and retain heat so efficiently that the water stays hot long after it leaves the heat source. But the more interesting effect is what happens to the water itself. As water heats inside a seasoned cast iron Tetsubin, the iron surface releases trace amounts of ferrous iron into the water. This changes the mineral content, softening the taste and producing what Japanese tea drinkers describe as a noticeably rounder, smoother flavor compared to water boiled in steel or glass. It's not a subtle marketing claim. Water chemistry genuinely affects the taste of tea. Japan identified this centuries ago. The Tetsubin is the tool that takes advantage of it every single day. Number 17. Handheld garment steamer. Ironing is one of those tasks that takes significantly longer than it should for results that don't always justify the effort. You set up the board, heat the iron, work through each garment section by section, and by the time you're done, the first shirt has already picked up a new crease from sitting on the board. Japan's handheld garment steamer removes most of that process. You fill a compact handheld unit with water, wait 90 seconds for it to heat, and then pass it slowly over hanging clothing. The steam relaxes fabric fibers instantly, dropping creases without any pressing, any board, and any risk of burning a flat iron directly onto the garment. It works on suits, shirts, dresses, curtains, and upholstery. Japanese versions are particularly compact, heating faster and producing a more consistent steam output than most Western equivalents. The whole process takes a fraction of the time, stores in a fraction of the space, and produces results on delicate fabrics that a flat iron simply can't match. Number 18. Bedside water carafe and glass set. Waking up thirsty in the middle of the night and having to walk to the kitchen is one of those small annoyances that disrupts sleep more than it should. Japan solved it with one of the simplest possible solutions. A bedside water carafe and glass set is a matching glass or ceramic vessel with a tumbler that sits upside down over the top, acting as both a lid and a drinking glass. You fill it before bed, place it on the nightstand, and water is immediately there whenever you need it. The inverted glass keeps dust and insects out of the carafe overnight, without any separate lid to lose or fumble with in the dark. Japanese versions are designed with the nightstand specifically in mind. They're slim, stable, and proportioned to hold exactly the right amount of water for overnight without taking up significant space. It's an almost comically simple idea that makes a genuine difference to sleep quality, simply by removing the reason to get out of bed. Number 19. Compact spin mop. A standard mop and bucket takes up a considerable amount of storage space. It gets genuinely unpleasant to handle after a few uses and requires wringing out by hand unless you're willing to spend significantly more on a self-wringing version. Japan's compact spin mop solves all three problems in one design. The bucket has a built-in spinning basket. You dip the mop head in, press a foot pedal, and the basket spins the mop head dry through centrifugal force in seconds with no hand contact required. The mop comes out damp rather than soaking, which cleans floors faster and dries them in a fraction of the time. The whole system is significantly more compact than a traditional mop and bucket setup. The mop head is usually microfiber, which captures fine dust and debris that a standard cotton mop pushes around rather than picks up. It's faster to use, cleaner to handle, and stores in considerably less space. Once you've used a spin mop, going back to wringing out a mop by hand feels entirely unnecessary. Number 20. Ofuro bath salts. Japan has one of the world's most developed hot spring cultures. Thousands of natural onsen across the country are visited specifically for their therapeutic mineral content, with different springs offering different combinations of sulfur, sodium, magnesium, and iron that each produce distinct physical effects. Japanese bath salts, called nyuyokuzai, were developed specifically to replicate those mineral profiles at home. They're not scented bath bombs or simple fragrance products. They're formulated mineral compounds designed to dissolve in the Ofuro and recreate the water chemistry of specific regional hot springs. Different formulations target different outcomes. Some are designed for muscle recovery after physical exertion. Others focus on improving circulation, relieving skin dryness, or promoting deep sleep when used in the evening. They're a staple in almost every Japanese home, used nightly as a genuine wellness tool rather than an occasional treat. The difference between a plain hot bath and a bath with the right nyuyokuzai dissolved in it is immediately noticeable, both in how the water feels against the skin and how the body feels afterwards. Number 21. Japanese vacuum storage bags. Bulky items like winter duvets, spare blankets, and seasonal clothing take up a disproportionate amount of storage space for how rarely they're actually used. Japan addressed this with vacuum storage bags that compress that bulk down to almost nothing. You pack the item into the bag, seal it, and attach a vacuum cleaner to the valve. Within seconds, the air is removed, the bag compresses tightly around the contents, and something that took up half a shelf now sits flat at about a tenth of its original thickness. Japanese vacuum storage bags are manufactured with thicker, more durable plastic and stronger seals than most generic alternatives, which is why they hold their vacuum for significantly longer without slowly reinflating over weeks. They're stackable, labelable, and transparent, so the contents are always identifiable without opening anything. An entire winter wardrobe compresses into a single underbed storage box. Spare bedding that used to fill a cupboard shelf now fits in a drawer. It's storage space that didn't exist before. created without any renovation. Number 22. Kitchen splatter guard. Frying anything without a splatter guard turns the stovetop, the surrounding counter, and sometimes the wall behind it into a grease-covered surface that takes considerably longer to clean than the meal took to cook. A kitchen splatter guard is a fine mesh screen that sits over the pan while food is cooking. Steam and heat escape freely through the mesh while oil droplets are caught before they leave the surface of the pan. Japan produces splatter guards with finer mesh, sturdier frames, and folding handles that make storage significantly easier than the flat, rigid versions common elsewhere. Some Japanese versions have a slight dome shape that increases clearance above the food, allowing steam to circulate properly rather than condensing and dripping back into the pan. The stovetop stays clean, the surrounding surfaces stay clean, and the guard itself wipes down in seconds because the mesh catches droplets on the surface rather than letting them bake on. It costs almost nothing and sits in a drawer when it's not needed. Number 23. Soap Saver Pouch. A bar of soap sitting in a dish goes through a predictable cycle in every bathroom. It sits in its own dissolved residue, develops a soft, soggy bottom layer that doesn't lather properly, and eventually becomes a thin sliver too small to hold that gets thrown away with a significant amount of usable soap still in it. Japan solved this with a soap saver pouch. It's a small mesh bag, usually made from natural fibers like sisal or cotton, that the bar of soap lives inside. You hang it from the tap or shower fixture so the soap drains and dries completely between uses. The mesh itself lathers as you use it, acting simultaneously as a gentle exfoliating cloth and a soap dispenser. When the bar gets too small to use normally, it stays inside the pouch and continues lathering until it's completely gone. Nothing is wasted, nothing goes soggy, and the bathroom stays tidier because the soap has a fixed hanging place rather than a dish collecting water beside the sink. Number 24. Sink strainer upgrade. Every kitchen sink has a strainer, but most of them are designed to catch large debris while letting smaller food particles through to slowly build up in the drain below. The strainer itself collects residue around its rim, sits in standing water, and needs cleaning in a way that most people avoid for longer than they should. Japan redesigned it. Japanese sink strainers are deeper, finer, and shaped specifically to catch all food particles regardless of size while allowing water to drain freely. They sit inside a removable basket that lifts straight out, so emptying it requires no contact with the drain itself. Many Japanese versions use a fine mesh rather than punched holes, which catches everything including rice grains, tea leaves, and small food debris that standard strainers miss entirely. The drain underneath stays clear. The strainer empties cleanly in one motion over the bin, and because the basket lifts out rather than sitting flush with the drain surface, cleaning it takes seconds rather than the awkward scrubbing a standard strainer requires. Number 25. Japanese Smart Rice Cooker. A standard rice cooker applies heat, detects steam reduction, and switches off. It works, but it applies the same process to every variety of rice regardless of grain size, moisture content, or age of the grain, which is why results vary more than they should. A Japanese smart rice cooker has a microchip inside that monitors temperature, pressure, and moisture throughout the entire cook, and adjusts the heat in real time based on what it detects. Different rice varieties have dedicated settings. The cooker learns the characteristics of each batch and compensates automatically. High-end Japanese models use pressure cooking to drive water deeper into each grain, producing a texture that standard atmospheric cooking can't replicate. The rice comes out with each grain distinct, properly hydrated throughout, and consistently the same every single time, regardless of the variety being cooked. In Japan, the rice cooker is considered one of the most important appliances in the home. Over 90% of Japanese households own one. The best ones are engineered with the same level of precision applied to far more expensive kitchen equipment everywhere else in the world. If you want to see more amazing things Japan is doing better than the rest of the world, then like and subscribe. And make sure to watch the video on your end screen. It's packed with even more life-improving things.